It was around noontime, and there was a woman with a jug on her hip walking up to the communal well just on the outskirts of town. She was all alone. She wasn't with the other women. They'd come and gone. She was there just on her own. She was probably avoiding those women. She was ostracized, wasn't respected, and ignored in the town that she lived in. Hi, my name's Karen, and I'm here to introduce you to the next woman that I write about in my book, and this time, the woman at the well. And this story has been told many, many times. It's been the subject of so many sermons, the woman at the well, and there's so much richness in this story that I'm probably not going to get it all in because it's just so much. But I'll try bare bones and see how it goes. Anyways, she plops her jug down and she notices a man sitting there, a Jewish man, and he says, "Will you give me a drink?" And of course, it was Jesus. He was sitting there. And I honestly think that he knew she was going to be there. He had sent all of his disciples into town to buy food. And he sat there and he waited for her to show up because he was going to do something that he hadn't done before. And that was to announce to this woman, the very first person, that he was the Messiah. He gave that to a woman. That's amazing. Anyways, I'll go on with the story. So she looked at him and went, "Are you nuts?" I'm paraphrasing here. "Are you crazy? Jewish men and don't talk to Samaritan women." She reminded him of the odds between these two races of people, these two tribes, Samaritans and the Jewish tribe. They just didn't talk to each other. They had a falling out many, many years ago in the Old Testament. So they were like foreign enemies. So a Jewish man talking to a Samaritan woman, that was a big deal. It didn't happen. And here was Jesus talking to her. Actually, this is probably the longest recorded conversation in the four Gospels that Jesus had with somebody, and it was with a woman, a Samaritan woman. So, pretty awesome. So, he says to her, "Woman, if you knew who I was, you would be asking me for water. You would ask me for living water." And she's like, didn't know what he was talking about, didn't get him. Well, I didn't get him either when I first was introduced to Jesus, so it took a while. Anyways, she was confused with his answer and started talking about other stuff. I think she thought if she maybe bantered with him that she'd get a little bit more information or find out a little bit more about him. So she said, "How are you going to draw water and give me water when you don't even have a jug or a cup?" And he replied, "So the water that I'm going to give you is deep, deep water. It's bubbling, refreshing, living water. It's not physical water." So there's two conversations going on. She's trying to figure out how she can not come to the well every morning or every day, and he's telling her how his love can change her life dramatically. So he says to her, "Why don't you go into the village and bring your husband back?" And she said, "Oh, I don't have a husband." He said, "Yes, you're so true there. You've had 5 husbands, and the man you're living with now is not your husband." So 6 men she's had relationships with, marriages with. and now she's living with a fellow. Back in those days, that wasn't very cool. Yeah, she would have, that's why she's ostracized. That's why she's going up to the well all by herself, without a companion, without a friend, without a woman friend. So that's kind of sad. But what happens is, it must have been her looking into his eyes. Maybe it's the first time that he'd seen love, or she'd seen love, and somebody's eyes looking at her for the very first time. And she knew right then and there that he was the rescuing God. He was the Messiah. And something clicked. Something clicked. She left her jug there, and that's a really important part. I'm going to explain that in a minute. And she ran off, screaming and yelling, "The Messiah is here! The Messiah is here!" And this is what she did. She left her jug right there with him, almost to say, "Please don't go. Please don't go. I'll be right back. I just have to tell everybody you're here. I have to tell everybody you're here. Please don't go." And what happened is, long story short, she brought a bunch of people from the village up to Jesus, and they got to see him, and they believed, after him speaking to them, that he was the Messiah. And they all believed. They all believed and became believers and followers of him, just because of her running with such glee to tell the villagers that the Messiah had finally come. That was a change in her. And he put that value into her. He gave her that recognition and that acknowledgement. He gave her that message to carry into the town folks, so that they could see value in her and adore her and love her, just like he did. And I think that's the most beautiful, beautiful story. There's just so much packed into that story, and I'm sure I've missed so much of it, but that's kind of the gist of it. And it just is another story about how much women matter to Jesus, even today. Even today, every single one of us matters to Jesus, and he wants every single one of us to be with him in eternity. And that's just like the most precious message that I could ever give to anyone. So I hope that you would listen and contemplate, consider saying yes to Jesus.